brought to you by Devil Dogs Brew and Beans, where you can get your Gators Breakdown private label coffee. Many flavors and options available at devildogsbrewandbeans.com/Gators Breakdown. So I think as we move past that first drive, and we knew some of the issues coming into this game, it was going to be determined how much the issues were going to be there. Of course, offensive line play was where we were going to look with the suspensions, the injury to Kingsley Aguakin as well. Offensive line play affected so much, but I just don't agree with the blanket excuse of, they're new, so we should just expect these issues. Against Kentucky and Utah and teams like that, of course, I expect issues. I expect inconsistency. Against Charlotte, you're not going to sell me on that. Missing Kingsley and Mazuka definitely hurts the run game. Yes, I expect a step back, but not to the effect of how it looked versus Charlotte. Almost every short yardage situation was won by the Charlotte defensive front. That can't happen. I don't care who Florida's lining up. I don't care who Charlotte's lining up. That can't happen the way it happened all night long. It was a consistent issue for the Florida offensive line. If they get the best of you a couple plays here or there, okay, that's fine. I can understand having some issues there, but it was all night long from start to finish. Florida in a short yardage situation got blown up, whether it be numbers, whether it be effort, whether it be just Charlotte being better than you up front on Saturday night. That was the case. And, of course, all of it goes back to this offense, and if the run game isn't there, the offense just isn't in sync. Now, of course, I think coming into this game, Florida wanted to work on the passing game, and that's fine. I'm sure the game plan for this game wasn't all that intricate for this one, but after the first drive, the run game fell off a cliff and affected the whole offense. In the first quarter, Florida had 225 total yards. I mean, it was rolling in the first quarter. 11 rush attempts for 5.1 yards a carry, 9 of 10 in the air, 169 yards passing in the first quarter, and a touchdown. It was not great after that. 18 total yards for the offense in the second quarter, 4 rushes for minus 0.3 yards, 4 or 5 passing for only 19 yards, 0 for 3 on third down in the second quarter, 9 total plays with a 2-yard average. Just could not maintain what you were able to do in the first drive in the first quarter. None of it carried over. Florida was outgained 92 yards to 18 in the second quarter, and that was a 16-7 halftime score. Florida going to kick 2 more field goals in the second half, only gaining 152 yards, 81 rushing for a 3.9-yard average, 7 of 8 passing for only 71 yards. And most of those passing yards for Mertz were in the first quarter. Not much after that as far as for the whole offense goes. In the second half, Florida 1 of 5 on third down, 2 turnovers as well. So just like Utah and a few times last year, it doesn't matter how good the passing stat line is. If Florida can't run the ball, those passing yards are either inflated or they just don't translate. Mertz going 20 of 23 for 259 and 1 touchdown would absolutely mean even more if the Florida ground game is at that 200-yard mark that we maybe come to expect, or if it's a good performance, be around that yardage. But with a total of 136 yards rushing, the way this offense is built lends itself to inconsistency. Bad third down play, and take that further to lackluster red zone performance. Look, I'm glad Mertz has got the ability to do that. Pair it with a run game, this Florida offense will be fine. But for whatever reason, we see it. The passing stats can look good. And just looking at the stat sheet, don't get me wrong, there's a lot of it was in the first quarter. There were some issues there as well after the first quarter. But 20 to 23 for 259, I'll take that every week. But it still may not be enough if the run game isn't there. It just does not translate. So go back to last week. Well, no, let's go to third down. Let's go down to third down. Florida averaged 3rd and 4 on the night. That's not bad. Not bad at all. And went 1 of 9 on third down for the game. 3rd and 4 should be a lot more manageable than that. 0 for 2 in passing situations. In that situation, and averaged a pitiful 0.4 yards rushing on third down. That's where I go back to the offensive line and Charlotte's defensive front, and You got to go win some of the short yardage battles. You average 0.4 rushing yards on third down. And that was averaging, I think, about 8 yards on first down. So it should have been set up to have a lot of success, but third down, so brutal for the Gators. So go back to last week. And now this is 6 quarters of football for the Gators, the second half of Tennessee, and now versus Charlotte, where the offense has looked really out of sync. It starts with not being able to run the ball. Understandable conservative play call versus Tennessee. I still, I don't make too much of it, but paired with this, it's just like, okay, can you flip a switch now? But you got the understandable conservative play versus Tennessee, maybe even a point versus Charlotte. I don't think the game planning was all that much there. I think you just one of those games you want to get in and get out of. But I was just hoping the performance, the effort, the cohesiveness, let's go out there and playing well. I was just hoping that would be out there, but it wasn't. Can the switch just be flipped now? This is 6 quarters where, okay, you're going to go to Kentucky. You got a tough road game. We know it was going to be tough anyway. Can the switch be flipped? The defense gives the offense some wiggle room here, but the margin for error seems so thin in the last 6 quarters, especially last night. Leave a lot to be desired in rushing the ball, and that translating into poor third down and red zone execution. Now, I think a lot of it will go to, and I know one of the big debates here, maybe getting the run game going, Montreal Johnson and Trevor Etienne. And the way the carries were dispersed versus Charlotte, I think we know enough by now Trevor Etienne should be the number 1 back here in this Florida offense, given what he did versus Tennessee, given what he did for most of the season. Something just seems off with Montreal Johnson. I still think he's a huge asset to this offense, but I could tell he was getting frustrated by the end of that game versus Charlotte there. And now looking at it, should Trevor Etienne have more carry versus Charlotte? Yeah. They shouldn't have needed him to run him into the ground. I can see after getting 23 carries versus Tennessee, knowing that he may be your main back moving forward, you probably want to protect him a little where you can. Protect him where you can. And I don't think this game was in any risk of losing this game, even given the issues on offense. So I do think there was some of this, let's let Montreal work out of this funk. Let's let the offensive line get the reps. But at the same time, Etienne out there probably could have garnered a few more carries out there. But it was 16 carries for Johnson, 3.9 yard average. Etienne come in, 8 carries, 48 yards, so a 6-yard average for him. It was clear. And Florida didn't really test the outside all that much, too. Of course, Eugene Wilson's not out there, but Ricky Pearsall, we didn't see we saw the Andy Jean trick play reverse. Didn't see a lot of the outside runs with the receivers, that we saw versus Tennessee, that we've seen a few times this year. I do think it was a pretty basic game plan as far as the run game goes. Florida did get creative a couple times on offense, but there's a clear pecking order right now at running back. Like I said, Montreal Johnson still can and should have a large role in this offense. But now I think the run game needs to be built around the abilities of Trevor Etienne. And also getting creative. Hopefully Eugene Wilson's back, but getting creative using those receivers as well. But I'm hesitant to go on the misuse of Etienne versus Charlotte. A couple more carries, sure, but protect him as much as you can. He's coming off a 23 carry performance versus Tennessee. Look, he doesn't not need to have 23 carries week in and week out, but that's going to be based on if you get anything else out of the other running backs, out of some of the other plays that you can call to get the ball in some other guys' hands. If it needs to happen, it needs to happen, but you don't necessarily want Etienne to have 23 carries a game unless you just absolutely need it and your risk of injury goes up. What will he look like by the end of the year if he's got 23 carries a game? You got to do what you got to do to win a game. And if these continued issues where Montreal Johnson and, just for whatever reason, it's not going there and Etienne's just your workhorse, then you got to ride him. But ideally, you want to see some of the Montreal Johnson that we know he can be. So something just seems off there. I don't know what it is. I know it looked like he was banged up a little bit versus Tennessee last week. Hopefully hopefully something gets figured out there. And this two-headed monster at running back for Florida continues. And he's still got a role, didn't even try to get him involved in really the passing game. That's why I said I don't think the game plan was all that intricate there. He can still be an asset there as well. But just interesting. I want to see how the carries are dispersed from here on out. But I think it's clear what the pecking order should be right now. Gators Breakdown Plus, starting at $3 a month. Link is in the description, and you get access to all these features. You get extra episodes. You get access to the Discord server where you get to have text chats. Hey, another big bonus, ad-free Gators Breakdown episodes, Q&As, giveaways, custom shout-outs, all that at Gators Breakdown Plus. Link is in the description. Come join us.